I'm Steve Bujold. Welcome to Downhome Corner. You know, growing up in Atlantic Canada, a place rich with stories and storytelling, I realized everybody has a story, and we are all connected. On this episode, we connect with Dempsey Bolton, a singer, songwriter, recording artist from Alberta, who is actually not from the Maritimes. In fact, he's never even been to Atlantic Canada. So what's his connection? Well, his story, my story, and possibly your story intersects. If you're from Campbellton, you might not know Dempsey, but you'll definitely know his family, the Boltons. So, on this episode, you'll get to know Dempsey and a bit of his music too. Let's get right to the episode. Let me take you back to when I was in grade 4. The year was 19 blah 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 blah. Andrew Street School, Campbellton, New Brunswick, Miss Culligan's class. I meet the twins, Dana and Donnie Bolton. We become fast friends, and by the next year, grade 5, in Miss Adams' class, we had begun hanging out together after school. The Apollo 11 school was pretty much in the middle. I lived on Matheson Street, and the Boltons lived on Gallant Drive. As we grew older, we kind of drifted apart. Still friends, but different interests. That's just life. But in my late teens, early 20s, I'd be on air at CKNB until 2 a.m. After locking up and leaving the radio station, I'd spend the next few hours driving around trying to wind down. While I was playing music on the radio, Dana and Donnie were playing music, actually making music. They were musicians, and since the bars closed around my quitting time, I would often run into them, come across one of the twins on their way home after a gig, or just hanging out in the bar. I'd offer a ride home to one of them, and sometimes we'd talk and listen to music, and sometimes we'd end up back at their place, 1 Gallant Drive. Now, what's remarkable about that address, 1 Gallant Drive, was the Boltons were famous for 2 things. 1, lots of kids, and 2, an incredible amount of musical talent. Everybody in the family seemed to sing or play or perform. How is it that some families are so talented? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it taught? Or is it in the genes? I don't know. But more than 3 decades later, I find myself again talking music with one of the Boltons. But this time, not Dana or Donnie, may he rest in peace, but their nephew Dempsey from Calgary, Alberta. Now, Dempsey doesn't hail from Gallant Drive, that house full of talent, but his father Kevin did. And so, we are all connected in this episode, from Campbellton to Calgary. Well, Dempsey Bolton, welcome to Downhome Corner. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, you're speaking to us from Calgary today. Are you a Calgary Flames fan?
No, I'm not.
Okay. You're not really a hockey...
I guess I would be an Oilers fan if I had to choose. But.
Oh, is that right? Okay, so it's the Alberta rivalry thing. Okay. Well, I guess I was just kind of getting at the fact that a famous Campbelltonian, Peter Marr, was the voice of the Calgary Flames on radio for 33 years, you know. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I just assumed that you might have been connected into that. What's neat about this, Dempsey, having you on the show, is you're not from Campbellton, are you?
No.
And you're not from the East Coast, really, are you?
No. Born and raised in Edmonton.
But there is so much connection to your story and what you do that it's almost... I don't know, it would be sacrilegious not to have you on the show, it seems. But I want to just kind of draw a little parallel here to maybe a bit to you and to our listeners here. But the neat thing about you is we are connected to, I guess, a house, an address, 1 Gallant Drive in Campbellton. Because years ago when I was a kid, I used to hang out with Dana and Donnie Bolton, the twins. They would be your uncle, correct? Or uncles. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like in that house alone, there were everybody that I knew in the family was involved in music in one way. They either played or they sang, or they did something or other, performed in some way or other. And I can't remember how many kids in the Bolton family, but there had to be somewhere around a dozen in that area somewhere here. Don't quote me exact numbers here, but there's Dana and Donnie, the twins. There's Aubrey. There's Mike, John, Myra, Lauren. I know I'm probably leaving some out here, and I apologize, but all of these people are family members, and they all had one thing in common. They all played music. And you've kind of taken up that tradition as well, or the legacy of your family, if you would, without getting too serious in it. But and yet you really haven't jammed with family members or collaborated or really done a lot musically with family members. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I haven't done anything really. I play with my dad, but that's about it.
Well, I guess that would be the other connection, of course, to One Gallant Drive is your father, Kevin. Kevin would be a couple of years older than me, so we wouldn't have, been hanging out back in the day. But I knew of Kevin, and I believe he knew me. And I would feel bad because I used to I used to work for CKNB Radio back in the day, the radio station in Campbellton, and I would, maybe come and hang out with the boys. I would finish at like 2 a.m. and I might run into either Dana or Donnie or somebody, and we'd go back to the house. And I always pictured, poor Kevin or somebody in there going, like hearing me talk and going, "Can you turn the friggin' radio off? I'm trying to go to sleep," But I just find it really interesting how, our roads kind of all connect in one way, and I say we're all connected and we all have a story. Well, certainly, that would be the situation here. But explain to me how music kind of came into your life. Was it through your father? Because, as I say, it's a bit of the Bolton legacy to be musical.
Yeah, I guess I was enrolled in a charter school elementary. So from the time I was 5 to the time I guess I graduated elementary at 12, I played violin. And so that was, I guess, would have been my introduction to music. I got quite good at violin. And then, I found, I guess, sports. Started playing basketball, and that was kind of all I'd think about in school. From then on, so, I played saxophone in band, and then I played a little bit of guitar in junior high, but not a lot. It wasn't until I was like 15 or 16 that I picked up the guitar pretty seriously and kind of taught myself to play in the next 2 years. So I definitely wasn't super heavy into music in my teenage years. It's more when I got into university that I started to get really into it.
Okay, and what I appreciate about you, Dempsey, is years ago when I began to write a little bit and record a little bit, I was excited to get back home on vacation and talk to all these people back home and to see what they were doing. And ironically, nobody seemed to be into writing or recording, but I'm no shot against anyone in the family, but I don't believe anybody outside of maybe Lauren a little bit, and perhaps Myra might have done a little bit as well, but I don't think there was a lot of recording in the family or a lot of writing. Would that be accurate, you say?
I don't really know. I mean, yeah, I think my dad plays a lot of covers. Never really got into playing, but there's the Bolton Family CD that I've heard a fair bit, and so most of them have a song on there, and so that's kind of a cool little piece of family memorabilia.
Okay. There's a CD, right? The Bolton Family CD. Okay, now are these mostly cover versions or original songs in there, or what?
I think it's a mix.
Okay, so there was some writing then in the family.
Yeah.
Okay. The only reason I'm pointing it out is I don't know if you feel the same way or not, Dempsey, but to me, half the buzz of music is being able to write your own song. Because you get to really say what you want to say, or at least to attempt to, and you can cover any song you want on the planet and even do a better version sometimes than the original artist, but it's never really going to say what you want it to say. You know what I mean? Like a song is your baby. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. Why do you think more people don't get that buzz?
I think it's like anything. a very difficult thing, and you have to be really bad at it for
You're
a
right.
long time to kind of get good. So I
Good
think
point. Good point.
there's more negative feedback to it because it's something very personal. So when it turns out horrible, it's even, it's maybe worse than, picking up carpentry and making a bad chair, something of that sort, because of how personal it is. When it turns out when it turns out bad, like I think most beginner songwriters songs do, then it's more of a I think it's more negative feedback than usual because it is such a personal thing.
That's a good point. It teaches you to fail well. I mean, I think as Will Smith said, fail often, fail early, and fail a lot. Like that's what teaches you. And but I mean, there's a certain amount of emotional pain that goes with a failure. I mean, if you've been around musically long enough, you're going to have an experience where you fall flat on your face, or you really bomb, or something goes wrong. But I think it's the lessons you learn from that. It's not about, it's like Rocky says, it's not how hard the world, hits you. It's not whether you can hit back as hard as whether you can take that and keep moving forward, right? And do you think that's a lot of it, the failure thing? People are afraid to fail, or it hurts too much to keep going forward?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we're kind of trained not to fail growing up, and then becoming afraid of it, or being taught to be afraid of it almost, is definitely a negative thing for an artist. Probably the best skill you can have as an artist is to stay out of your own head and not judge anything that you make. I mean, not judge personally. You need to judge things critically, but I don't think you should be judging them personally when you're making them.
Yeah, it's to say yes to the idea. Don't try to edit as you're going. Let the creator speak, right? Yeah. Very good point. Now, I certainly would not describe you as three chords and the truth. You definitely got the truth in there, but you're more than three chords. You're very layered. Your music is well thought out. You've got it. Yeah, I mean, it's well thought out. It's peppered with metaphors. It's deep. It's got a lot going on. You've got something to say. And what I hear in your music more than anything else is an incredible amount of work. How would you describe your music, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I what I try to do is take what I love from R&B and soul music, which is the harmony, the progressions, and I guess I would say I have like a kind of R&B neo soul type harmonies fused with more of a pop structure. So that's what I try to do, and then I always love arrangements that are very evolving and have a lot going on. I love big sounds, and I love arrangements with movement. So that's what I try to create. I try to create a lot of movement in my arrangements and make it feel kind of living and breathing. And it's a constant learning process. But I think I'm getting a lot closer to that type of ideal I have in my head. And I think the last track I put out, Backup, is probably definitely the closest I've ever got to what I envision myself making.
And in many ways, if you let that be your mark of success, you can really get some good stuff going. John Fogerty talks about that. Like, he talks about writing and how he says it's difficult in the process itself. And if you finish the song, that's how you measure the success of the song. The good feeling of a job well done. That's, you can feel it for a bit, but then you have to move on to the next one. Otherwise, you're just going to get stuck in a groove. But when you talk about R&B, you refer to it in kind of more the 70s R&B sense, not as much the, Destiny's Child R&B or that kind of, I don't know how those two styles have the same name, but somehow, into the 90s, some cool sounds came out of music, and they referred to it as R&B, when it was, leading towards the hip hop thing. But I don't know, like you maybe you can explain it, or explain it to me better.
Sure.
R&B is, there's a difference between R&B Destiny's Child and R&B The Temptations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think R&B's evolved, and so I'm mostly referring to what I think of as probably what I'm thinking of is closer to neo soul now. It's this new genre that is kind of really huge right now. But R&B 10, 20 years ago with Usher and Justin Timberlake, I think where the similarities lies in the harmony. Pop for the longest time was very four chords. You'd use your 1, 4, 5, and 6. And that's pretty much it. And I got really bored of that. So I was trying to figure out different ways that I could kind of use colorful chords that are rooted in gospel, really, and use them and make them pop, like Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder's the master of using really, really complex and incredible harmonies and making them sound completely listenable and like there's nothing going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what interests me. And so I think whereas R&B in the 70s is really more what blues is now.
Right.
So I think it's kind of evolved, and now contemporary R&B is basically hip hop and an offshoot of hip hop. And so I think the more people start to produce their own music, the more genres get melded together. And so I don't even know that genres are really going to be applicable in the next 10, 20, 30 years, but
that would be a good thing in one way, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you may go through a similar feeling when someone says, what's your music like? It's hard to put it into a description because each song is a different concept, and it's harder to pigeonhole yourself than it is to pigeonhole somebody else's music, I think, And I guess when someone, I don't know if you go through the similar thing, but, like when someone says, what's your music like? I have to think from their point of view if I want to describe it,
Mm-hmm.
Like almost their perspective. Otherwise, I can't get it out right. You go through the same thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the short answer is, R&B/pop. That's I guess where I am. The longer answer would be R&B harmonies with a pop structure and a little bit more electronic production, but also taking influence from kind of 80s synthwave. So I think you can find that with a lot of artists. If you were to truly describe their genre, you'd probably be, having to put together a run-on sentence.
Well, you're putting together a stew more than meat and potatoes, it sounds to me. Like you were, and you're saying, well, geez, like this seems to taste good. We'll put in some of this, and we'll put in some of that, and we'll mix it all up. And then in the end, it's unique in its taste because it has all of the ingredients mixed in my own unique way,
Yeah. And I think the more genres are broken down, it's a good thing for art. But I think the easiest way to market yourself will always be if you fit in a box. And so it's a lot harder to market yourself if you don't have a specific genre. And I think that's why pop is so massive, because it fits perfectly in a box and appeals to a massive amount of people. Whereas if you're kind of blending genres, doing more niche things, you're going to limit your audience. But I think for me anyways, artistically, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I guess if it's a true following or whatever, you're kind of still meeting those standards. You're not limiting yourself, but you still have a certain, standard you want to go by. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've got a great story about Donnie Bolton. Now, full disclosure to you and to my listeners, Donnie Bolton was a great friend of mine. I grew up with him, met him in grade 4. Him and Donnie were classmates of mine. We hung out, and that's how I ended up, knowing a bunch of your aunts and uncles on Gallant Drive, But when Donnie passed away, he had a guitar that ended up in your hands. Tell me that story.
Yeah, so my dad would go out. They'd have family gatherings out east, and my dad would go out there from time to time, and I guess he'd show videos, or I don't know what he had of me, but he'd show me playing. And so Donnie knew that I was a guitar player, and at that time I would have been, oh God, I don't remember how old I would have been, but I would have been mostly playing lead guitar, metal. because that's what I was super interested in high school was metal.
Okay.
High school and earlier university. So, yeah, so he knew I played lead guitar, and I actually, he left it to me. So I have his guitar.
Well, wow.
Pretty cool.
That is cool. I mean, it's honorable, and it's also, I guess, something you'd want to, hold with respect, type of thing.
For sure.
Has any of your songs? Has Donnie's guitar made an appearance in any of your songs so far? Your recordings?
No, it hasn't. That's actually a good idea, though. No, I have a Ernie Ball Music Man that I use it for everything because it's just a gorgeous guitar. But I should track it down one of these days.
Yeah, well, there might be some vibes still left over from Donnie's days in there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's funny because I can picture Donnie and I sitting down, having a puff, and talking about, like discussing your music. Like if we'd heard one of your songs on the radio, I could hear us discussing it and breaking it down and, pointing out the good things about it and that kind of thing. So I think, his music, I think your music would have resonated pretty cool with him. And I would have loved to have had discussions with him about your music.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that would have been neat. But let's talk about some of your songs. Let's talk about your music. First of all, you set up a challenge for yourself. No, I love this. I think that's a wonderful. I think it's a wonderful thing to do because it puts you in a scary place, and I think every artist needs to be in a scary place if you want to, improve and get better and reach out to new heights. But explain this challenge that you gave to yourself.
Yeah, well, it might bite me in the ass, but we'll see. I wanted to. Well, I'm more and more realizing that the content is king right now, and the artists that put out massive amounts of songs are the ones that blow up. And I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you release a song every day for your whole life, and they're at least at some kind of quality level, like you're going to gain momentum. So I was seeing the trends and seeing how music is going this day and content is going these days. And so I set a goal for myself that I am going to release 12 tracks this year, one a month. I'm not going to release them one a month, but it's going to average out to that. So yeah, I'm trying to produce them all myself and release 12 by the end of the year. And I mean, that's only going to happen if they're up to my standards. So I've got a lot of work to do.
Right.
But yeah, that's the idea.
Well, that's pretty cool. How is it going?
Good. I just released my first single Feb 5th. That was Backup. And believe the next one's probably going to be dropping March 19th.
Okay.
So I might be a little behind, but I'm not too worried. I'm going to release probably one every 5 or 6 weeks and then have an EP in there as well to kind of catch me up a few weeks that I miss.
Well, that's a great thing for you and your fans this month. So your first song is Backup. Well, give me some background into Backup. What's it all about?
Sure. Really, it started like any song that I write. I was playing on the keys, and I loaded up that synth patch that you hear like right off the bat. Well, after the intro, and then I messed with it a little bit, and I was like, wow, that's like, I'm loving the synth patch. So I wrote, I think, the chorus first, and then the first verse second, and then maybe the second verse a week later or something. And I just spent over the course of 4 months, I just spent probably over 100 hours on it, just carving out the production and really trying to just make it musically great, musically something that I loved. And then lyrically, I wrote it faster than most songs. I find, for whatever reason, writing about not necessarily unrequited love, but kind of bad relationships is super easy to me. And it's another reason I'm trying to not write about that now. But so yeah, it wrote itself really fast, and then the majority of the work was production and just getting everything sitting right. There's a lot of moving parts, especially in the second verse, so fleshing that out took quite a while.
I like what you say about writing about relationships, because when you write about yourself, here's the thing that when I put my album out, I remember talking to my roommate, and he says down the road, I'm asking him, well, what do you think of the songs? He says, I love the album, but he says, there's this one concept running through it is like, what a screwed up life I've had. And and I went like, well, that was then, and then it hit me. You're writing, even if you're writing a lot of times about your life, you're writing in the past tense, even if you're writing from the first person or in the present tense in the song. And I got such a kick out of that, because later down the road, I remember hearing an interview with Steely Dan. And they were talking about how, like, one album, Asia, had this kind of L.A. sound, but they recorded it in New York when they were missing L.A. And then when they moved to L.A., they did another album that had a different. So, like, it was like they were a year behind in their life, in their writing, So I would suggest don't worry about the relationships going bad if it's about fodder for song, because because if it's, if it's about your life, okay. But I mean, if you're worried about that influencing your writing, I wouldn't worry about that too much. But but let's give it a listen. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, sure. Well, I was just gonna say the relationship in question was like 3 or 4 years ago. I haven't really had a whole lot of relationship troubles to draw on recently. My girlfriend's great, but
my life is going good. I got nothing to write about. Jeez.
Yeah, well, no, it's a real issue. No, I have things to write about, but I think more what I'm concerned. Like, I think I've moved away from thinking that relationships and love are the most important thing I can write about. I'm now thinking I'd rather be writing about things of existential nature and climate change, things that actually matter to me, as opposed to something that I think more shallowly matters to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you're looking for issues a little more of substance, you're saying.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Well, let's give it a listen, see what she sounds like. Back up. This is Dempsey Bolton on Downhome Corner.
You only mess with me to keep me on the side for Friday nights. When your plans are looking empty, you invite me just to help you pass the time, to keep your mind from stumbling onto something heavy. I'm the backup, no, it's true. I'm a backup, it's all I am to you. And any time of night, I'm only one ring away from coming through. Sitting in my car out on a midnight summer drive. When I ask you what we are, you tell me, please don't ruin the vibe. So I take you home the long way, trying to get all of the beds. 'Cause I know that when I drop you off, I might not see you again. I keep checking my phone, red's a different type of glow. You say you just need alone time, but I know you ain't alone, right? If we both are being honest, no excuses, nothing polished, no rehearsal, just the thoughts. Then maybe you could tell me I'm the backup, then I know for sure I'm the backup. Tell me now before, 'cause any time of night it's only one ring before I'm at your door. Sitting in my car out on a midnight summer drive. When I ask you what we are, you tell me, please don't ruin the vibe. So I take you home the long way, trying to get all of the ways. 'Cause I know that when I drop you off, I
Man, that thing grabs you right off the top. I love it, and I love what you were saying about. We were talking about putting in the work. And you said it might have been 4 months you've been working on a passage in the song or something. A lot of people hear a 3-minute song and they think it takes you 6 minutes to write, and record it. Turn the tape on, and if you have to do a second take, go for there. But I think that's the beauty of it. To me, if you get lost in the process, that's where the magic happens. If you don't because the work and the pain, like I was saying, it turns a lot of people off. But sometimes I guess you just got to push forward. So, but it sounds to me like you're not afraid of the work.
I am and I'm not. I think what I'm afraid of when I get kind of precious with my songs. So I'm always afraid I'll be losing inspiration. And I do lose inspiration on them. So that's when it becomes really hard to get that last 10%, is when I've already sat with it for 3 months. I've listened to it thousands of times and I'm still trying to flesh out something that is so cemented in my mind. That's usually what scares me, and what often makes me procrastinate finishing a song is worrying I'm going to screw it up or not be able to finish it. But yeah, I think to the point you made, definitely if you listen to a production and there's a lot going on, then likely this song took a long time to produce, and the more elements there are, obviously the more time it would take. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I hear that because I can appreciate how much sometimes you have to put into something to get it to come out the right. But I like the way you talk about having a sound in your head and you're not wanting to quit until you get that on, recorded. Like that's, I think that's really important as an artist, as a recording artist. If you've got that sound in your head, go find it, go chase it, Well, your next song, you would have released, I guess, in 2019, Savor?
That Savor would have been August 7th, 2020.
Okay.
That would have been 7 months ago.
Okay.
A while, actually.
I like your use of falsetto. You don't use it as a crutch. You use it as a way to set the tapestry. You're not hitting just a note in falsetto. You're hitting full phrases. Is it? Yeah. Do you think that's a throwback to your influences of Otis Redding and Stevie Wonder and those kind of days, or?
Maybe. I think. Yeah. Maybe like Al Green. Maybe.
Now you're getting smooth, huh? Yeah.
But I think what I took that a lot of inspiration from an artist called Zansky. He's an artist out of Toronto, and he does a lot of really, really vibey guitar things, super evolving. And he almost always does his choruses in falsetto. And I love that setup where you have your verse in like a comfortable range, whatever, and then the chorus going into falsetto allows you to really up the energy, I feel like, even though it might not be as strong as maybe a high mix, but
oh yeah, for sure. And not only that too, but what I kind of find, at least in your songs, in Savior, I notice, is that your use of falsetto kind of brings a bit of lightness to what would otherwise be dark passages. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess so. I never thought of it that way. I'm always very drawn to music that sounds dark and brooding, and especially with that song, I was trying to capture that vibe.
the video too.
yeah. My friends Defend Terrio and Isaiah Williams shot that with the help of some other people, and they really wanted to have a vampire theme. I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, that's good. So I'll encourage people to check it out on YouTube. Right, Savior by Dempsey Bolton.
Sky, look at the skyline, it shimmers with you next to me. High, paper was so high, the ground looks as big as our feet. Oh, lean into me, darling. Come a little bit closer now. Lean into me. me, darling. Feel it all as we go around. There's a whole world right there. There's no stop for no one. None of that matters, yeah. So just save it, the save it, yes. Fill my lungs with your air. Step inside the moment. None of that matters, yeah. So just save it, the save it, yes. We got all night till sunrise, so let's forget who we are. Fog the windows, kick the seat down, press the poison to my lips and light the spark. Oh, lean into me, darling. Feel the weight of your sins rushing away. Lean into me, darling. Feel them melt into everything. There's a whole world right there. There's no stop for no one. None of that matters, yeah. So just save it, the save it, yes. Fill my lungs with your air. Step inside the moment. None of that matters, yeah. So just save it, the save it, yes.
Yeah, really, your songs really hook you right in. I think, you know, I mean, the sign of a good song is if it sounds familiar when you hear it for the first time. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I get with your music.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's a good thing, I would hope.
Yeah.
Well, it is for me how I feel about it. But the last song we'll feature here in the show is kind of an interesting title, and I'll say it first, and we'll explain it later, I guess. But "Welcome to My Funeral." Interesting title. But you mean that tongue in cheek, right? I mean, you don't mean that's. I mean, you're talking in metaphors, right?
It's a death of who you were in your former relationship. I find often that I still do this when I see people I knew from high school or university. I revert back to the person I was when I knew those people, and I really don't like that, because I like myself a lot better now than I did in high school. But so it's kind of that idea. Welcome to My Funeral is this departure from who you were in a relationship where there wasn't reciprocated energy. There wasn't it wasn't a two-way street.
Unrequited love. Now there's a subject that no artist has ever written about.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. No kidding. I love that. That's really neat. How you speak of the death of your former self. Would you agree with this? I remember years ago I saw this line in a movie, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing the concept, but she was talking about this guy that she was in love with. She was talking to her lover, and she said, in a relationship, love is who you are when you're with the person that you love. Like, I thought, wow, would you think that would be in there? Like, when you say, like, the death of your former self, like, are we a different person every relationship now?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I know. It's a stupid question, but why is he asking me this, for God's sake? I thought he wanted to talk about my songs.
I don't know. I think it depends on maybe what type of person you are and how susceptible you are to your environment, and maybe somebody who's a more sensitive person, like I know I'm a more sensitive person, might be more apt to pick up different things from their environment or who they're with.
Is it cathartic?
That's a good question, though.
Is it cathartic to write?
Sometimes. often it's very frustrating, to be honest.
Yeah.
I consider songwriting, I would say songwriting definitely isn't my strongest skill. And so when I go to write a song, it's often a lot of pounding my head against the wall. And usually a verse or a chorus will write themselves very quickly. And then either getting that second verses are always such a killer for me, or maybe one line in a chorus. There's always something that I get stuck on. So that's a challenge.
Okay.
But
So, well, back to the beginning of it. Welcome to My Funeral is kind of tongue-in-cheek and kind of metaphorically speaking about past relationships. There's your bio.
Well, I remember what you said last night. Gave you my heart and you stuck it. I was ready for you to be my number one, but I'm just a drop in your bucket. And every time you slip into my brain, I get a little drip of shooting pain. Cause it hurts to know the road that I've been cruising down's a one way. I got my foot on the gas, but I left it in neutral. That's what I feel like every time you say one more chance, then you're serving me the usual. But there's a very fine line between hard to get and hasn't put in any effort yet. I got my foot on the gas, now you're etching up my tombstone. Welcome to my funeral. Welcome to my funeral. Welcome to my funeral. I thought about you every day. Now I'm taking all my good vibes back. Honey, I'ma pop the Chardonnay and find somebody else to fill my glass. And every time you slip into my brain, I get a little drip of shooting pain. Cause it hurts to know the road that I've been cruising down's a one way. I got my foot on the gas, but I left it in neutral. That's what I feel like every time you say one more chance, then you're serving me the usual. Well, there's a very fine line between hard to get and hasn't put in any effort yet. I got my foot on the gas, now you're etching up my tombstone. Welcome to my funeral. Welcome to my funeral. Welcome to my funeral.
There's a line in there I really like, Dempsey. I got my foot in the gas and you're etching on my tombstone. There's some sarcasm in that. I love that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole chorus is very, it's very, I guess, metaphor laden, and you know, there's a few metaphors with the driving and then the funeral. So
I just think so many so many people can relate to, you know, like, you know, my irons are hot, I'm ready to go, and it seems like you want to kill my buzz. You know, like some relationships are like that, you know, we're in different speeds in the relationship, you know, and there's nothing wrong sometimes with the actual people. They're just at different times in their life, you know, in their journey type of thing.
Mm-hmm. I guess with the relationship I wrote this about was one where I felt like I was putting in more effort than was being reciprocated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at a time back then when I just, you know, that was drawn out. Whereas now I feel like if that was happening, I would be at a place where I could be like, okay, peace.
Yeah, I guess we all want to feel that way. Maybe that's why we write songs like that, you know?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to other people who want to write and record?
Oh, God. I guess I would just say do it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in consistency. I think if you do something every day, like I didn't know how to do any of this 5 years ago, but I just kind of figured it out. So just figure it out and be consistent. That would be my advice.
Yeah, well, you're
Not
touching
super
on
original, but
you're no, I mean, you're touching on something that's near and dear to my heart. The last few years is the mindset and a growth mindset is what I'm screaming on a soapbox all day long. Mostly to myself to remind me. So I like that. Like if you do it. And look, I'm seeing certain things in my voiceover and my voice acting work where I just kind of pretended for so long that all of a sudden I got it right in some areas. So I really like you saying that. I think that means a lot to anybody on those bad days. Like put it aside and say, I'll come back tomorrow. I can do this tomorrow. I don't have to do it today, I mean, unless you're under the gun to release something, under contract or something, you can't say that if you have a gig, but I mean, under certain times, give yourself a break and tell yourself you will come back to it tomorrow, but stay consistent, if it's even 10 minutes a day, just consistently do it every day for 10 minutes, and I can guarantee you that'll turn it into 15, that'll turn into an hour, and then people will be knocking on your door saying, you got to come out, you look like Howard Hughes, you got a long beard, and you didn't.
Yeah.
So
and I think to that point, any bad results are still like steps towards where you want to go. So like making a bad song is still improving your songwriting. Producing a bad song is still improving your production. So remembering that too. It's all towards your 10,000 hours or whatever mantra you believe in.
Ooh, see, you're tight. Now you're quoting people I follow. I love it. That's yeah. No, I hear that all the time. And the other thing is, if you want to build a successful company, all you need is 1,000 true fans. So I mean, it gives you encouragement. You just build off of those things.
For sure.
And again, that's mindset. That's back to growth mindset. So where can people find you online? Where can they find your music, or how could they be in touch, type of thing?
Yeah, I think to find me, I'm probably most active on Instagram or TikTok. So either of those places, it will be Dempsey_Bolton. That's my handle. And as far as music, you can really find it anywhere. Distribution nowadays puts it absolutely everywhere. So Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, SoundCloud, like we're literally wherever.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, man, it means a lot to me to have you on the show, because it takes me back to a lot of my roots. And although I don't get to spend a lot of time with the people who meant that much to me musically back in the day, it's almost connecting me back to that, speaking with you. And it's nice to see that somebody, I don't know, it must be in the blood or something, bud, because you didn't grow up on Gallant Drive, you know what I'm saying? But but you certainly have the the musical gene in you, so I wish you a lot of success, and I hope you stay with it, and I hope that we're all proud of you for what you do up ahead, even more than we are so far. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll look forward to getting you back again on the show when you go, listen, we just had 4 billion streams on the latest song, but, we got time for you, Steve. We got you in here for a little bit here. Hang in there.
I mean, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, if you keep doing it every day, then you will get there, I'm sure. But it's good to have you on the show. And what I love about it, too, is, like I say, even though you aren't from the East Coast, in that sense, there's enough of your roots and enough of your music and what you do that's in there. So it's an honor to have you on the show. Thanks, Dempsey.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And that's our show. My thanks to Dempsey Bolton. This episode dedicated to the entire Bolton family, and especially you, Donnie. Check out all our episodes at downhomecorner.com. Please like us and share us on social media, and subscribe wherever you hear our podcast. Remember, I'm a professional voice for hire. What do you need? A killer commercial? A film narration? Explainer videos? You'll love working with me. Drop me a line anytime, steve@downhomecorner.com. Till next time, I'm Steve Bujold, reminding you, everybody has a story, and we are all connected.